It's a really fascinating, like when you got into it at the very beginning of this episode, if it's part of your family, if you're a dog owner, if it's a companion, if it's just an addition to your family, it's the psychology around pet ownership is very interesting, and what people actually do and what they say they will do and how they consider their pets to be involved in their family and their daily lives.
Can you talk a little bit about the psychology? Because I know there were some juicy bits.
I think the verbiage is so fascinating, and everything is obviously very carefully written because the research and articles and things, they are very clear to say, in comparison to my human child, that does not make sense. Like,
It does in an interspecies family. You have to distinguish that they're human.
I know.
Canin lupus or something is what dogs are. I don't know.
Like, and so, yeah, there's very extreme views. Like, some people are obviously like, you can't call something a child that you have not nurtured and cared for in a way for it to leave the nest and go and live its own independent life.
I get it.
That's what they said the major distinction is between human children and fur babies, is that human children are raised to leave and be successful and live their own lives and contribute to society. So leave eventually. Okay. So the difference between fur babies is that you raise them to stay. Like, you're your companion, you are with them until they pass, like for their entire lives. And there's a high likelihood, unless you're older, that they will pass before you. And that's the expectation. Whereas a child passing before you is the ultimate devastation, you know? So the distinction there, I think, is really interesting, where they say human children you raise to leave and fur babies you raise to stay, you know? So I love that. So anyway, like you were saying, I was reading more about the psychological, like, why are people doing this? And there's obviously so many factors going on with pandemic, increased urbanization, low birth rates, like all of those different factors are playing into younger generations having pets as fur babies, because they're replacing birth and children and progression of life in that way, whereas millennials may not be ready to be taking those steps, and even younger generations than that, right? So what was the funny thing that we were talking about yesterday with the birth rate? The birth rate is the barometer of despair.
And we are facing, apparently, a barometer of despair, are we not? A little?
Yeah, so they say that people who do not feel optimistic about the future overall will not have children, because they do not want to bring children into a world that they don't feel optimistic about, that it's going to be better than it was before. So that's where they say, like, birth rates are very low, the birth rate being the barometer of despair in people's mindsets.
Can we title this? Can we just title this that? Fur babies are the barometer of despair.